Have you ever felt like heaven went silent just when you needed it most? Listen carefully, because this message is not an accident. You didn't click on this video by chance. I have been watching you. Yes, you. The one who kept going even when your heart was breaking. The one who prayed in the dark when nobody heard your cries. Life has pressed you. People misunderstood you. Doors closed in your face. And there were moments you wondered, God, are you even there? But I saw every tear, every lonely night, every silent battle. Every time you stood up again, when the world expected you to fall. You thought you were forgotten. You thought the silence meant abandonment. There were nights when you asked me the same question again and again. Why is this happening to me? You looked at the pain in your life and thought it was punishment. You looked at the closed doors, the betrayals, the heartbreak, and you believed somehow you had done something wrong. But listen to me now, my child. What you went through was never meant to destroy you. It was preparing you. Every tear you cried in silence, I saw it. Every moment when you felt abandoned, I was still standing beside you. Even when you thought heaven had gone quiet, I was still working behind the scenes of your life. You see, I could not place the weight of your calling on a heart that had never been tested. The world will look at your story and only see the pain. But I see the strength it built inside you. The betrayal taught you discernment. The loneliness taught you how to hear my voice. The rejection taught you that your identity was never meant to come from people. You thought those seasons were breaking you, but they were building you. There were moments when you almost gave up, moments when the pressure felt too heavy, moments when you wondered if you were simply meant to suffer. But what you didn't understand at the time was this: I was shaping your spirit. I was strengthening your faith. I was teaching you how to stand when everything around you was falling apart. Because the assignment I have for your life requires a strength that cannot be learned in comfort. It must be forged in fire. The storms you survived, many people would have walked away. The battles you face in many hearts would have hardened. But somehow, even through your pain, you kept searching for me. That is why you are still here. Not because life was easy for you, but because you were chosen to endure what others could not. Chosen to rise where others would fall. Chosen to carry a purpose bigger than the wounds you suffered. And one day soon, the same pain that made you question everything will become the very thing that reveals your calling. The scars you tried to hide will become the proof of your strength. The darkness you walked through will give you the authority to guide others out of theirs. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. Prepared for a moment when your voice will matter. Prepared for a season when your strength will lift others. Prepared for a destiny that required more courage than you even realized you had. So do not look back at your suffering with shame. Look at it with understanding, because the pain you survived was not the end of your story. It was the training ground for the purpose I placed inside you long before the world ever knew your name. And now the preparation is almost complete. I know the moments you still think about. The conversations that ended in silence. The doors that closed without explanation. The people who walked away as if you meant nothing. You carried those memories like questions in your heart. Why wasn't I enough? Why did they leave? Why did everything fall apart? But listen to me carefully now, my child. What felt like rejection was actually protection. You saw people turning their backs on you. I saw paths that could not carry where you are going. You tried to hold on to relationships that were not strong enough to walk beside your destiny. You tried to stay in places that would have slowly dimmed the light I placed inside you. And when those doors closed, it wounded you deeply, because your heart was genuine, your intentions were real, you were willing to give love, loyalty, and patience. But not everyone assigned to your life was meant to stay for your future. Some people were only meant for a chapter. Some environments were only meant to teach you a lesson. And if I had allowed you to remain there, the weight of your calling would have been crushed before it ever had the chance to grow. You thought their rejection meant something was wrong with you. But the truth is far greater than that. They were never built to understand what I placed inside you. The vision you carry, the strength you are developing, the purpose waiting ahead of you. Many people can celebrate you when you are small, but very few can stand beside you when your destiny begins to rise. That is why the separation had to happen. Not because you were unworthy, but because you are being positioned. Positioned for places where your spirit will be valued. Positioned for connections that will support your purpose. Positioned for doors that will not close the moment you step forward. There were moments when you begged me to fix those broken relationships. Moments when you prayed for certain people to stay. But if I had answered those prayers the way you wanted, you would still be trapped in places too small for the life I prepared for you. You could not see the trap, but I could. You could not see the delay, but I could see the destiny waiting beyond it. So I moved people out of your life. I allowed certain doors to close. I let situations fall apart that you tried so hard to hold together. And yes, it hurt you. But sometimes protection does not feel gentle. Sometimes protection looks like separation. Sometimes protection feels like loss before it reveals itself as direction. Because where you are going requires room for the right people, the right opportunities, the right alignment. Your destiny cannot be carried by those who do not respect your purpose. So do not look back at rejection with bitterness. Look at it with clarity. Because every door that closed behind you was clearing the path ahead. Every person who walked away made space for someone who will walk with you. And one day you will look at those painful goodbyes and realize something powerful. What you thought was rejection was actually me guarding your future all along. There were seasons in your life when nothing made sense. Problems appeared from every direction. Misunderstandings surrounded you. Conflicts rose out of places you never expected. You tried to handle it like everyone else would. You tried to reason with people. You tried to explain yourself. You tried to fix situations that kept breaking apart. But the more you fought those battles, the more exhausted you became. And in your quiet moments you asked the question that weighed heavily on your heart. Why does it feel like everything is fighting against me? Listen carefully, my child. What you were facing was never just physical. Those battles were spiritual warfare. Because when a life carries purpose, opposition will always rise against it. You were not just dealing with difficult people. You were standing in the middle of a spiritual conflict over the future I placed inside you. There are assignments on your life that threaten darkness. The light I planted in your spirit was never meant to stay hidden. It was meant to rise. It was meant to impact lives. It was meant to break chains that others have been trapped in for years. And because of that, resistance came. Confusion came. Attacks came in ways that made you question everything. There were moments when people turned against you for no clear reason. Moments when opportunities slipped away just as they seemed within reach. Moments when you felt misunderstood, isolated, and emotionally drained. You thought it meant you were failing. But what you didn't see was that you were actually standing on a battlefield, and every step you kept taking forward was proof of your strength. Many people run when the pressure begins. Many people abandon their path when the attacks start coming. But you stayed. Even when you didn't understand why the fight felt so heavy. Even when your faith was shaking. Even when you were tired of being strong, you stayed. And that is why the enemy could not defeat you. Because the greatest weapon against your destiny was never the attack itself. It was the hope that you would give up. But you didn't. You kept breathing. You kept searching. You kept reaching for me even in moments when your prayers felt weak. And every time you chose not to surrender, you were winning battles you could not see. The storms around you were never random. They were resistance against the purpose growing inside you. Because when someone is chosen to rise, the war begins before the victory appears. But hear this clearly now. You were never fighting alone, even in the darkest nights. Even in the moments when you felt abandoned. I was standing beside you on that battlefield, protecting you from battles that would have destroyed others, strengthening you when your heart felt ready to collapse, guiding you through storms that were meant to shape your courage. You survived what should have broken you. You stood through pressure that should have crushed you. And now, the same battles that once confused you are becoming the evidence of something powerful. Your purpose is real. Your calling is significant. And the fight you endured was never meant to stop you. It was meant to reveal the warrior I placed inside you. Because the war around your life was never about destroying you. It was about trying to stop the destiny you were born to fulfill. And now you are still standing. There were long stretches of time when the silence around you felt heavier than any storm. Rooms that once held laughter became quiet. Conversations grew distant. People who once walked beside you slowly disappeared from your path. And in those lonely moments you wondered something painful. Why does it feel like I'm walking this road alone? You looked around and saw others surrounded by support, by friends, by people who seemed to understand them. And deep inside you began to question whether something about you pushed people away. But listen to me now, my child. That loneliness was not abandonment. It was separation. There were voices around you that could never understand the assignment placed on your life. Voices that would have doubted your vision. Voices that would have spoken fear into moments where courage was required. If they had stayed close enough to influence your direction, they would have slowly pulled you away from the purpose waiting ahead. So I created distance, not to hurt you, but to protect what I was building inside you. You see, when too many voices surround a chosen life, clarity becomes difficult. Opinions grow louder than calling. Expectations become heavier than truth. And the destiny I placed inside you requires something rare. It requires the ability to hear my voice above all others. That is why the crowd had to fade. That is why the circle became smaller. That is why you found yourself sitting in quiet spaces where it felt like the world had moved on without you. Those lonely seasons were classrooms for your spirit. In that silence you began to notice things you never noticed before. You started hearing the whisper of direction in your heart. You started recognizing which thoughts built your strength and which ones tried to weaken you. You began learning how to stand without constant validation from others, because the path you are walking will not always be understood by people around you. Some will question it. Some will misinterpret it. Some will even mock what they cannot see. But your assignment was never meant to be shaped by their understanding. It was meant to be guided by mine. The loneliness you felt was clearing space for something greater. It was creating room for spiritual clarity, room for deeper strength, room for connections that will one day align with the life you are stepping into. Because where you are going, the voices around you must carry wisdom, not doubt. They must strengthen your purpose, not weaken it. So do not look back at those quiet seasons with sorrow. Look at them with gratitude. Because in the moments when you thought you were walking alone, you were actually walking closer to me. Closer to your true direction. Closer to the identity you were always meant to embrace. And one day soon, the same solitude that once felt painful will reveal its purpose. You will realize it was never emptiness. It was preparation. Preparation for a life where the right voices will stand beside you, and the wrong ones will no longer have the power to distract you from your calling. There were moments when the silence felt unbearable. You prayed and heard nothing. You waited and nothing changed. You searched for a sign, a whisper, a small confirmation that I was still there. But all you felt was quiet, and in that quiet, doubt began to creep into your heart. You wondered if your prayers had reached me at all. You wondered if heaven had turned away. You wondered if the silence meant that you had been forgotten. My child, listen closely. Silence does not mean absence. The quiet seasons of your life were never empty. They were full of preparation. You see, when something powerful is being built, it often happens where the eyes cannot see. Foundations are laid underground. Seeds grow beneath the soil long before they ever break through the surface. Your life was in that kind of season. While you were waiting, I was arranging. While you were questioning, I was aligning. While you felt stuck, I was moving pieces into place that your mind could not yet understand. Breakthroughs rarely announce themselves before they arrive. They are formed in silence. There were doors being prepared for you that could not open yet because the timing was not ready. There were people being positioned who had not yet crossed your path. There were strengths developing inside you that needed one more season to mature. If I had answered your prayers immediately, you would have stepped into opportunities before you were strong enough to carry them. If I had removed the silence too soon, you would have missed the transformation happening within you. The waiting was shaping your patience. The quiet was strengthening your faith. Because anyone can believe when answers come quickly. Anyone can trust when miracles appear instantly. But you kept believing even when the sky seemed still. You kept hoping even when your heart was tired. You kept reaching for me in the quiet. And that kind of faith creates something powerful inside a person. The silence you experienced was never meant to confuse you forever. It was the pause before movement, the breath before the storm breaks, the hidden moment before something greater begins to unfold. Right now, there are things shifting that you cannot yet see. Paths are opening. Barriers are weakening. Opportunities are quietly moving toward your life. And soon the same silence that once made you question everything will suddenly make sense. You will look back and realize that nothing was wasted. Every quiet night, every unanswered prayer, every moment of waiting, they were all part of the preparation for what is about to break through. So do not mistake silence for abandonment. Heaven has never stopped working on your behalf. Even when you could not hear my voice, even when the world around you felt still, I was preparing something far greater than you imagined. And when it finally appears, you will understand this truth with complete clarity. The silence was never the end of your story. It was the moment just before your breakthrough began. There is something happening inside you, and you have felt it. A strength that wasn't there before. Not loud, not obvious, but steady. It showed up quietly in the middle of your hardest seasons. You remember the days when even getting up felt heavy. The moments when your heart felt bruised by disappointment. The nights when the weight of everything you carried almost made you collapse. There was a time when those moments would have broken you, but something changed. Little by little, without you even noticing it at first, you began to rise differently. The same storms came, but they didn't shake you the same way. The same criticism appeared, but it didn't silence your spirit like it once did. The same setbacks tried to stop you, but somehow you kept moving forward. You thought you were just learning how to survive, but my child, something far deeper was happening. I was building strength inside you, strength that cannot be borrowed from others, strength that cannot be taught in comfort, strength that only grows when a soul walks through fire and chooses not to give up. You see, the destiny waiting for you requires more than talent. It requires more than desire. It requires resilience, because the path ahead will ask you to stand when others fall, to lead when others hesitate, to keep faith when others surrender to fear. And the strength forming inside you now is proof that you are being prepared for that level of responsibility. Many people wish for purpose. Many people pray for influence. But few understand the pressure that comes with it. Purpose carries weight. Influence carries expectation. And the person who will carry those things must first become strong enough to hold them. That is why your journey has not been easy. Every challenge you faced was shaping your character. Every obstacle you overcame was expanding your courage. Every painful moment you survived was adding another layer of endurance to your spirit. Look at who you are becoming. You are no longer the person who once doubted every step. You are no longer the person who needed constant approval to move forward. You are becoming someone who stands with quiet confidence. Someone who continues even when the path is uncertain. Someone who carries a calm strength that cannot be easily shaken. And that transformation is not accidental. It is evidence. Evidence that you were never meant for an ordinary path. Evidence that your life carries purpose greater than the struggles behind you. Evidence that the strength inside you is growing because the assignment ahead will require it. You are not just surviving your story. You are being shaped by it, prepared by it, strengthened by it. And one day soon, when you step fully into the purpose waiting for you, people will look at your courage and wonder how you became so strong. They will see the confidence in your voice, the resilience in your spirit, the calm authority in the way you walk through storms. But you will know the truth. That strength did not appear overnight. It was built in the battles you survived, and it is the clearest sign that you were chosen for something greater than you ever imagined. Think back for a moment and look honestly at your life. There were situations you should not have survived. Moments when everything around you was falling apart. Moments when one wrong step could have changed your story forever. And yet you are still here. You walked away from things that could have destroyed you. You escaped circumstances that should have trapped you. You endured storms that should have erased your hope. At the time, you called it luck. You called it coincidence. You told yourself you were simply fortunate. But my child, it was never luck. It was protection. There were dangers you never saw. There were plans against you that never reached you. There were doors that closed not to punish you, but to shield you. Many times you were frustrated when something did not work out. You felt disappointed when opportunities slipped away. You questioned why certain relationships suddenly collapsed. But what you did not realize was that I was standing between you and things that would have harmed your future. I was guarding the life you carry, because your story does not belong to chance. It belongs to purpose. And when a life carries purpose, heaven does not leave it unprotected. There were moments when darkness tried to surround you. Moments when people misunderstood you. Moments when pressure built so strongly that it felt like everything was against you. But even in those seasons, something kept you from completely falling apart. Something held you together when your strength was fading. That something was my hand over your life. I was guiding steps you could not see. I was closing paths that would have led you away from your destiny. I was protecting your heart from battles that would have broken others. You may not always understand why certain things happened the way they did. But one truth stands above everything else. You are still here, still breathing, still standing, still moving forward, and that alone is powerful evidence. Evidence that your life has been watched over. Evidence that your journey has been guarded. Evidence that the purpose inside you is too important to be left unprotected. There are people who faced far less and still lost their way. But somehow, even when you felt weak, you were preserved. Even when you felt lost, you were guided. Even when you felt alone, you were never truly abandoned. That is not accidental. That is divine protection. Because the destiny ahead of you has not yet fully unfolded. There are still lives you will impact. There are still doors you will walk through. There are still moments where your voice, your strength, and your story will matter more than you can imagine today. And until that destiny is fulfilled, the protection over your life will remain. Storms may rise, opposition may appear, but nothing will be allowed to erase the purpose I placed inside you. So walk forward with confidence, not because life will always be easy, but because you now understand something powerful. Your life is not simply being lived, it is being guarded. Guarded by the one who wrote your destiny long before the world ever knew your name. There is a moment when everything begins to make sense. Not all at once, not in a loud revelation, but like a quiet light turning on inside your spirit. And suddenly, you start seeing your past differently. The pain you once hated begins to look like preparation. Those nights when you cried and asked, "Why me?" Those moments when you felt rejected, abandoned, misunderstood. They were not random chapters of suffering. They were training grounds. You thought life was breaking you apart, but something else was happening at the same time. You were being built. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every lonely season taught you how to stand without depending on people. Every battle forced your spirit to grow stronger than your fear. And now, you're starting to realize something powerful. You were never just surviving. You were being prepared. Prepared for moments where others will need the strength you gained in the dark. Prepared for doors that require courage most people never develop. Prepared for a destiny that could only be carried by someone who understands pain, but refuses to surrender to it. And here is the truth that changes everything. While you thought you were alone in the storm, you were actually being protected. There were paths you almost walked down that would have destroyed your future. There were relationships you almost held onto that would have slowly drained your purpose. There were situations that seemed unfair when they ended, but they ended because heaven was guarding your destiny. You could not see it then, but now something inside you is waking up. You feel it. That quiet strength rising in your chest. That awareness that your story is not ordinary. Because the same battles that were meant to stop you are now the very proof that your life carries purpose. Darkness does not fight what is insignificant. Storms do not gather around empty assignments. The pressure came because something inside you was always meant to rise. And now the season is shifting. The preparation is turning into activation. The lessons are turning into authority. The pain is turning into power. You are stepping into a moment where the things that once wounded you will become the reason you are able to lead, guide, and lift others. What once felt like suffering was actually shaping your destiny. And now the truth is becoming clear. Nothing you went through was wasted. Not the tears, not the battles, not the lonely nights when you thought your story was falling apart. All of it was preparing you for this moment. The moment when you finally realize you were never just surviving your pain. You were being prepared to rise from it. Rise up, my chosen one. Hear me clearly, I have never left you. Not for a moment. Every tear, every lonely night, every battle you faced, I was there, carrying you, strengthening you, protecting you. The trials you endured were never meant to break you. They were meant to prepare you for the glory I have placed before you. Now is your time. The chains that held you back are falling. The darkness that tried to silence you is fleeing. Your destiny, brilliant, unshakable, divinely ordained, is calling you forward. Stand tall, for the power of heaven flows through your spirit. Walk boldly into the path I have set, knowing that every step is guided, every victory assured. You are not just alive, you are chosen. You are not just surviving, you are rising. And nothing can stop the plan I wrote for you. But the truth is far deeper than that. Today, I am breaking the silence, and what you are about to hear may change everything. So don't scroll away, because this may be the moment heaven has been waiting for, to finally reach you.